This is the Pet Buzz. And here's the dynamic pet duo.
Kay and Mary Margaret, thank you for joining us today on the Pet Buzz.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
You know, we're excited you're here, and I'm going to ask my first question to Mary Margaret. So therapy dogs have been active in schools for some time now, and teachers, administrators, I'm going to say medical professionals and others have witnessed the effects of therapy dogs on students as well as themselves. Can you please review some of those great benefits with us?
Absolutely. We're focusing about students and education today. So some of those highlighted benefits, particularly in schools and educational settings, we've seen a correlation with the enhancement of skills like reading rate, accuracy, reading fluency, and even reading comprehension. The presence of a therapy animal can increase motivation, focus in learning, that stimulation to keep kids engaged. And also one of the things that we're seeing that's pretty popular in school settings is this recognition that there's a decrease in stress, particularly around events like in a school setting, final exams, where a therapy animal can really be a benefit. But there's some broader sort of mental health and well-being benefits that also expand not just to students, but to a much broader population, right? An increased perception of social support, some decreased symptoms in terms of general anxiety, and even some alleviation of symptoms in terms of depression. So lots and lots of benefits for all walks of life, frankly, not just students in education.
I got to pet a dog, Dr. Fleck. I mean, I'm juiced. I got to go pet a dog. I mean, I'm going to get all those benefits right away. We've got plenty of dogs. Okay, Dr. Fleck.
Oh, that's just so good. These students need so much help, and it's wonderful that they're helping. So, Kay, was it these benefits and more that prompted Mars Pet Care to conduct the study about how having an animal at home affected some of the over 1 billion students that experienced a disruption in in-person schooling because of the pandemic?
Yes, it was. Absolutely. These benefits from the evidence we see from animal-assisted therapy, also from the 15 years of research that we've done at Waltham together with our partners, looking at very controlled studies, intervention studies that assess the benefit of contact with pets in a number of different areas, looking at loneliness and isolation, reduction of stress and anxiety, improvement of social skills, self-esteem, empathy, all of these things. And then together with the information we were starting to see from global health bodies like UNICEF, World Health Organization, Save the Children, about the growing concern that the pandemic was having on children and the impact of lockdown, particularly on their mental health. So it seemed a good time to do a bit of a pulse check with parents and say, okay, so what are parents observing at the moment? And so that was the reason really why we did the study.
And I think that's great. I mean, when I heard about this topic, I thought it was just spot on. I mean, you know, we've been talking about how dogs are helping our mental health, and we've heard stories about how some students are suffering in the isolation and even suicide. And we've heard about more dogs biting young kids, but I thought this was really a positive impact of dogs and, you know, not only young children, but older children, high school students, where that socialization, where the maturity level starts to really increase. People are thinking about the next steps in their life. So I thought this was really important. You know, Kay, can you tell us how the study was conducted? You know, talk about the protocol as well as the results.
So the study was quite straightforward. It was an online survey, 1,000 parents in the US, 1,000 in the UK. And essentially, those parents needed to be parents of children between the age of 5 and 17. And those children needed to be involved in homeschooling during the pandemic. And so within the profile of the parents, about 50% of the pets that were owned by the parents were cats or dogs, but there was other pets as well. And essentially, they were asked a range of questions around their observations. So their perceptions of what they were seeing with their own children. And essentially we got some, I would say as a scientist, very reassuring results, because actually it was additional evidence that was very consistent with what we'd seen in scientifically controlled studies historically. So we saw comments like The parents felt that presence of the pets made their children less stressed. They believed that it helped them focus more. They believe it gave them a distraction, a reason to go away from the screen, a reason to play and step away from learning and get some enjoyment and interaction. Many people commented that that children interacted in different ways with their pets. So they played with them, they talked to them, they read to them. 4 out of 10 children read to their pets. And that, again, reinforces reading and the positive relationship building that you get with a pet. And so many, many benefits. And so the outcomes were really consistent and very consistent in the US and the UK as well. We saw similar patterns, really reinforcing the benefits of pets for a child in a home learning environment, but also for children in a learning environment and interacting with a teacher. So a number of people commented that having a pet and giving the teacher something else to talk to the child about other than learning was also a positive reinforcement and allowed that relationship to build in a different way.
Yeah.
So lots
that's
of
great.
very positive things.
I think it's great because so many times, you're in school and obviously the teacher is the dominant role in a classroom, but by the teacher actively engaging with the kid or the child and the pet just develops another type of or a deeper relationship. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and I think if you think about it, the intensity of the conversation that the teacher is having with the student is kind of nice to have a little deviation from that. We do that in our everyday existence.
Yeah, I can imagine the
We
teacher.
learn better.
Right.
We interact better.
Can't you imagine the teacher saying, "So Johnny, were you reading your book last night?" And he goes, "Yeah, me and Hannah were sitting around and I was reading to her and she liked it." I can see that. I can imagine
Or
that.
when I'm explaining something to a patient, a client, about the patient's problem, and it's very intense, I try to deviate from that and lighten it up a little bit so that they can understand me more. Perfect. They're doing it. So, Mary Margaret, we're talking about creativity during the pandemic. I understand that virtual school visits with therapy dog teams are a big hit.
They are, in pre-pandemic, many therapy animal teams were visiting schools in classrooms, after school programs, things like that. And so we saw a combination of things, including teams who had a relationship with a school who then started visiting virtually because the kids missed that animal that they had a relationship with at school. Excuse my cat. We also,
laughing. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because I guess it was maybe 6 or maybe 2 months ago. I did a Zoom pet etiquette session.
We haven't seen that.
I'll find it. I'll send it to you guys.
Please do. We clearly need it.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mary Margaret. Go ahead.
Quite all right. So we had existing relationships with therapy animals in classrooms that were able to continue virtually. But we also saw these creative teachers who have done so much over the last year to try and keep their students engaged and keep everyone moving forward under unprecedented circumstances. And so we saw teachers reaching out, wanting someone to read a book with their dog, wanting to do breed or species education with their students, just looking for new and engaging ways because, let's face it, field trips were off the table. Visitors to classrooms weren't happening. And so really the creativity of the educators was such an opportunity to find new and unusual ways to incorporate therapy animals virtually.
Stop the boredom, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
just impressed because, it's so funny. We've had to be so creative now just with our life in general, how to make things work.
I guess it's one of those situations that you don't find the student putting his head down on the table, falling asleep. Can you remember that when we were in school? Yeah.
Yeah, when you were in school, dinosaur years ago.
Okay.
Well, ladies, I just want to wrap this up by asking you, just really short, 30 seconds each. How can this information benefit? And how can it help our listening audience, especially the parents of children and pets, What can they take away from this interview? Let's start with UK first.
Okay, so we know that in the pandemic, children are being impacted, their mental health is being impacted. We know that association with pets and access to pets can benefit that. It needs to be in a safe environment. So it would seem to me it's fairly low-hanging fruit if you can do some sort of animal-assisted intervention to allow children to get the benefits of access to pets in a really safe way.
Awesome. And Mary Margaret?
I absolutely sort of echo what Kay said about, safety coming first. But I do think that, parents shouldn't underestimate what looks like a casual interaction. There are, of course, all sorts of mental health benefits. There are physical benefits from getting out and walking that dog, playing fetch, running around. And so what might have looked into the past to us like, well, just sort of what pet ownership or pet parenting might look like, I think we shouldn't underestimate the broad benefits of having that pet family member with your kid.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's great. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, what a great interview. And just to remind everyone, that was Kate O'Donnell, Vice President at Waltham Pet Care Science Institute and Chief Mission Officer, I like that title,
I do too.
at Pet Partners. That's Mary Margaret Callahan. For more information, I want you to check out these websites. First of all, mars.com, waltham.com, and petpartners.org.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Pet Buzz.